Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of Xilonen changes that have kind of happened in the past, as well as some things that are going to be kind of coming up in 5.1 and 5.2, possibly some other things in the future that we're looking forward to, maybe some new regions, some stuff like that for what Genshin's really going to bring to us in the next few versions. So go ahead and like and subscribe to the video if you guys did like the video. And now going ahead and jumping into Xilonen's kit Rift, what can you tell us about her that has changed since version 2 of her kind of kit?
So we already did a Xilonen pre-release, Xilonen, however you want to say it. So if you do want to see her initial kit and kind of what that was, you can check out that video. We'll probably have it linked at the top. But there have been some changes as of yesterday. So let's talk about those. So going from version 2 in the beta, now going to version 3, let's look at the ultimate or her burst. And this was a big one because in the last video, if you did watch that, there were a lot of discrepancies going on with the just how the burst worked, the duration, the cooldown, the energy cost even. There's a lot of what we think of as translation errors just in general, and so most of the even the theory crafters were saying that and agreeing on that. But now it's a lot more solidified and we have something to work with. So when looking at the burst, once again, this is called Ocelotliq Point, and it has a skill damage of 506% of her defense. So all the damage she's doing is based on her defense. And also there is some continuous healing in the burst. Once again, if you want to know how that works, check out our pre-release on that. So previously, with the healing, with that duration, like I was saying, we didn't really know. We were kind of guessing and giving some theories on what it could be because it was just so inconspicuous. But now we know that the duration for the healing, if you do trigger the healing version of the burst, it's going to be 12 seconds. So that's pretty nice. 12 seconds, I think, is enough time to allow you to go through your rotation if you're using at the end of Xilonen or something like that and kind of heal your characters. And so that's going to be good. Also, with the follow-up damage, in case you're not doing the healing version of the burst and you're going into the extra damage, the extra hit that it does, previously, in the last version, this was doing 1,200% of her defense. This has been decreased down to 506%, so it's a little over half of a decrease. But I don't think that's a huge deal. I think the healing version is the version you probably want to use most of the time anyways, especially if Xilonen is your only kind of sustain type character. So I don't know if that's a huge deal. It could be, but who knows. Moving on, though, we also see that the cooldown for the burst, previously it was kind of very weird and wacky, and we were even seeing like a cooldown change just because, once again, all those translation errors. But now we know that she has a static cooldown of 15 seconds on the burst with an energy cost of 60, whereas previously we were getting numbers like 15 energy for the burst, and so that was really strange. And I even, I had red flags going on in my head. I'm like, that's not normal. But so that is her burst changes, and honestly, it's pretty good. I like the duration on the heals. I think that's going to be pretty good. And if this changes in the next version of the beta, we may cover that and we'll keep you guys updated on that. Also, she had some changes with her fourth passive talent, whereas previously it was stating that when she triggers her Night Soul transmission, she was regenerating 10 phlogiston and increasing the movement speed of characters in your party by 15% for 10 seconds, and it couldn't stack. Now that's simply been changed to regenerating 15 phlogistons. So probably it's just a lot more simple. It is a little bit more phlogiston, which is going to help, of course, with using the Night Soul state and the Night Soul blessing, especially if you are in Natlan. So that's nice. It's not a massive change. It's not changing damage or like how she works as a character like what we saw with the burst. But there is one last change, and we see that in her second constellation. So for those of you who aren't going for constellations, you don't have to worry about this part. But this is pretty interesting. So her constellation 2 mentions her geosource samples and how it kind of changes how those work, and well, not changes how they work, but it does add some additional bonuses to those. So previously, when you had one of the geo source samples and it was staying as geo because one of your party members is a geo unit, previously we were getting 30% crit rate when you had that. Now that's been changed to 40% damage increase, and that's it. It's no more complicated than that. It's just a 40% damage increase, which is pretty good because that's also helpful for, just everyone. A straight up damage increase is going to help everyone. Yes, the crit rate's helping everyone. And I think the reason they changed that maybe what inspired the change is because one of the first things that came into my mind is, well, that's kind of Cryo's thing, maybe. And so they're trying to keep the elements true to like kind of how they feel in nature. But also with the new sets giving 40% crit rate, I was just thinking about like, okay, if I run that set on a DPS character and I also have Xilonen in my party getting 30% with the C2, that's already 70% plus the base 5% in a character. You're at 75% crit rate alone. No substats, no main stat on the circlet, and that's really already enough. And you're going to get some substats if you're, building the character well. So that's kind of just the way I was thinking about it, because you're already getting so much crit rate. And then if you're using a crit weapon, I mean, so there's a lot of factors. I think this is a good thing.
Going on to the next part, looking beyond the Xilonen changes on the actual kit side of things, looking beyond that, some actual changes we might be getting in kind of the game. The first thing we're talking about in 5.1 is the new Zhongli effect, or the trail that he's going to be getting. Now, I think some people already kind of knew this was going to be coming around and kind of happening, but they did change it from a little bit to some differences from what it kind of used to look like. But it is nice to know that maybe we can get some trails, which I'm not personally sure how I feel about trails in Genshin. I don't know about you, Rift. I don't think I can. I'm mad about it, nor do I think I'm like excited and elated about it. So I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I already purchased like I think it was jeans. I got D-Lukes. I even got Chi-Chis because yes, guys, I use Chi-Chi. Blame, make fun of me all you want, but Chi-Chi Hyper Boom's fun. Okay, all right, hot take. Anyways, I like the trails. Kirara has a pretty cool one too, and I'm excited about Zhongli's because I have him, and I think that'll be really cool. I use my Zhongli a lot, just because he's a very, you know this, Vixen, he's a very universal character. Just Geo doesn't react with, too many, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't react, it doesn't mess up a lot of reactions, right? So you could still use him, and he's a good shielder, good sustain, so I use him a lot, so having a trail for him would be pretty cool, and I'm sure other players might resonate with that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the trails are cool, and it's a nice added bonus. It's just very interesting that everybody's kind of talking about the Zhongli one. I think the reason why is because it did get a change on how it's kind of looking. So the symbols in it look a little bit differently, and the way it looks, the original one almost looks like it's part of Chiori's burst, where it has like those, like, it looks like a ribbon, whereas now it looks a little bit more crystallized and like Geo specific. So kind of, it definitely, I think, does give more of a Zhongli vibe. But beyond that, looking a little bit further into the next speculation is looking at the 5.1 possible new region. Now, I know people a while ago were talking about how 5.1 is not going to have a new region. That's kind of the toss-up with a lot of people, that 5.1 is not going to have a new region added to it. And it's a little bit annoying and weird, I think, for people, because they were thinking that we still have 3 more tribes to get to in Natlan. If you guys aren't kept into the story, we've only hit half the tribe, so we have 4, 5, and 6 to actually get to. So I think a lot of people were looking forward to another one. New speculations have come up that there possibly could be a new region, or a smaller region, added into. I know a while ago there used to be some leaks or some speculations about the idea of different changes, maybe, of like an underground area that's still in mainland Natlan right now that is technically added in. So and that still looks like it's going to be happening at 5.1 as well. But they're also talking about a new world boss that's being added in. So a little bit different than what we're used to for what we were seeing for so long. So I think at this point in time, the only answer is going to be time at this point.
Right. I know one of the main complaints, I guess, and it might be nitpicky, but one thing I was hearing is that people were complaining a little bit about the map size of Natlan upon 5.0 release, and like, oh, it's not as big as I thought it would be. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's a valid complaint, but I don't know. It's just, for me, it's not something I was thinking about or like really hoping, oh, I hope we get at least 2,000 square miles, not like 1,900, or I'm going to be mad, So I don't know. It kind of seems silly to me, but it is something I've seen. It's not like just this minority over here. I've actually seen a lot of people talking about that. So I was like, oh, okay. But as far as the new maps in 5.1, definitely very interesting. And the underground stuff also is interesting to me because just the other day, I don't know, I was just noticing that Natlan's very low, as in like the sea level low on the map, because I was comparing it to Fontaine. Like, we all know Fontaine is elevated. It's like one of the higher spots in all of Teyvat or whatever. And I'm not like big on the lore, but I was just comparing it, and I'm like, you know what, Natlan, especially where the arena is, where we saw Mualani and Kachina duel, that part of the map is very low. It's like very sub-level, if that makes sense, because like even from the middle, if just smack dab in the middle of the 5.0 map, you still can hardly see the stadium. off to the west because it's just so much lower.
Yeah, I think there's some very interesting things about, I think the entirety of it. I do like the idea of how there's multiple different tribes and how they kind of play with their ecosystems a little bit. So in the Signs of the Canopy, it's very high, very mountainous. It's not like
Yeah,
Leeway where there's just mountains everywhere, or Chinyu Vale. It's more like you're just on a huge, tall plateau with
I know,
everything
and I
else.
love it.
So, and it gives the idea of them with their extreme sports and everything being up high. The Children of Echoes are kind of at the beginning. You know, they're extremely friendly, like that idea, as well as it's with the mines and everything. So that makes sense. And then the People of the Springs is just where all the water is. So that's still pretty cool. I think at the end of the day, I think they're doing extremely good. I'm just excited to see what they bring in the future. But those are the speculations we at least have for 5.1. Now, going a little bit further into the future, looking at 5.2, is the Dragonspine event that's coming in 5.2. I'm actually really, really hyped for this because obviously I've been playing since day one that the game's released. And so I haven't seen Dragonspine in a very, very long time. So I'm actually extremely excited to see. I don't know if they're going to add anything new. I'm going to guess there might be some, obviously there's going to be a huge quest line. There's going to be some interesting things. And this might actually be the reason why there's not going to be anything happening in 5.2 for the Pyro Archon. So I think with the Dragonspine event, this is maybe possibly the reason that they pushed it around. And that could be a good thing, depending on how people feel about it. Possibly, you know, back the last time we got Dragonspine was when A Weapon Festering Desire came out. So could they now this is my personal speculation. There's zero anything to this. Could this be an allowance for people to get some old event weapons? Something like that, maybe? Maybe they'll throw that back in. I know a lot of people have been kind of talking about it and wanting it, so I don't know.
It would definitely be very cool and very desired, especially for me, because I was not there, believe it or not, guys, for that event. And so there actually were a lot of event weapons I didn't get, you know, and I guess talking about that, it'd be really cool if they brought some kind of thing back, or just maybe even an event. Maybe, I don't know, throw it in the gacha system and make it really hard to get. I don't care. But make it obtainable somehow for not just Festering Desire, but even the others, because there's new players. There are going to be new players in 6.0 and Snezhnaya, right? You know, there just are. So to make some old stuff obtainable again, yes, they get outdated, or, you know, the meta changes stuff like that if they're, you know, useful or not. But there's still, like, there are options, and so some players are going to get different things because just the way the gacha system works, and yada, yada, yada. So that'd be pretty cool. As far as a Dragonspine event, just in general, oh, it's going to be so cool. You know, because I was just thinking, like, I wasn't there for that awesome event, right? With the Albedo, Eula, Bennett, Amber, whatever. And I wasn't there, and I heard the story was just so good, but I didn't get to witness it. And I know there's a lot of you out there that can, you know, relate. I mean, we're so far ahead of that now. At least half of the player base, maybe more, hasn't even experienced that. And if that's a hot take or what, you know, that's just my guess. The point is, there's a big majority of players, or a big percentage of players, who haven't got to witness that. So maybe if this event is kind of touching back on that 1.0 event, or 1 point whatever version it was, and it's kind of like a continuation of it, that'd be cool, because then maybe they can give some kind of a briefing on it, or there'll be flashbacks. And, you know, I wasn't there for that original event, so I don't know if it already made like a very definite closure with the story, but I don't know. I'm excited for it, because for me, it's my first Dragonspine event, so I'm excited.
I think a lot of people are going to be, and I totally agree with you. I do think if it's not a majority, if it's not a 50-50 kind of balance, I do think an surprising amount of players don't have it at the very least, and haven't experienced that, even if it is online and stuff like that. Now, the last thing we want to talk about at the end of the video, which we can even go over this quick, is the Genshin collab that we got recently with McDonald's. Now, this actually came out earlier today, and it's interesting because I was on my way to the dentist actually while I was seeing this go up. But very interesting, because the idea with it, I wholeheartedly expected them to never do anything in the US ever. Now, if you guys haven't guessed yet, we are American, contrary to popular belief. I don't know if you don't believe that or not, but... So,
if you don't believe that, you're crazy.
Exactly. So I think overall, it's very interesting to be like, oh, they're doing something in the US. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of great. Like, I mean, okay, like sure, why not? I was like, all right. I mean, and then I saw the other things that came with it, and I was excited. I'll go over what everybody can get, and then I'll go into our personal thoughts on everything that kind of happened. So with the Genshin Impact X McDonald's collab, it's going to be between September 17th and September 29th. It's only going to be in the US. That's a pain point first that I'll bring up. But basically, overall, while you're doing this, you can buy two things. The first thing is the Genshin Impact Apple Pie, and if you do that, you're going to get a few things out of it. You're going to get a redemption code, which is then going to allow you to get 40 primos, 20,000 mora, the recipe to make those apple pies basically in the game. They're called golden
That's
apple
funny.
pastries, mystic enhancement ore, and hero's wit. So some interesting stuff that's going on with that one. Primos, which is interesting. And then also with the other one, which is the other thing that you can buy is the Genshin Impact Deluxe McCrispy meal. Now, both of these things you have to order on the app, and whether you pick them up in the store or you get them at home, whatever, you have to order them in app.
Right.
Alongside of that, with the getting this Genshin Impact Deluxe McCrispy meal, you'll get the redemption code and bring it home. With this, you'll get the new wing glider, Wings of Delicacies, which is kind of like a red, almost looks like a Linny type of kind of banner here, which I'll throw that up on screen because it is from the Genshin Impact Twitter, so we won't get copyright strike from it, but that is what's coming out. And then also you'll get a name card as well. So I think jumping right into it, my first qualms with it is that it's only in the US. Now, I'm fortunate enough, or we are fortunate enough to be in the US and have the opportunity to get it. In the past, though, I think it's only been in like China, especially the KFC collabs and all that. We haven't been able, I think there's a KFC glider, and we haven't been able to get it because we don't live in China. And so there's a lot of, even though we have a KFC here. So now it being in the US, that doesn't change my mindset of, I'm a little bit interested to know why it's not global again. And we don't really have a global kind of launch on any of these things. It might be because of certain reasons that maybe the companies don't want it to be. Maybe they want to test it out first and then they'll do global. I'm very surprised to see, though, that McDonald's doesn't want to do global. And I think this is a Genshin thing specifically because a lot of people are like, well, the KFC thing is because KFC doesn't want to go global, which doesn't make sense to me. But with this, McDonald's has gone global with almost everything. So it's very interesting to see how this is once again only going to be allowed for Americans. And now you've got plenty of people just calling up Americans being like, I'll just pay you, just go get me a glider. Like it's, so now it's on our front. So I don't know, Rift, what are your thoughts on it, I guess, overall?
I mean, yeah, like you pretty much said, it's nice for us over here in America. It's great. But people in Europe, people in Asia, servers, you got to miss out. And yeah, it's only 40 Prima Gems. And then it's just a glider, at least it's mostly cosmetic. But hey, 40 Primos, you're saving it for that character, free to play. 40 Prima Gems is like, that's treasure, right? And you're missing it. But no, not really. I mean, hey, at least it's not like several polls or something like ridiculous like that.
Mm-hmm.
That I think would stir a lot of controversy. Like, because if we go back to the drama we heard about 4.4 and the 10 pull this or Chinese players only, or the Asia servers get the three polls, but the rest of the global servers don't. That was a huge thing. And I'm like, that was only 3 polls. So if they were doing that, that could be an issue. So there is an inherent issue of the fact that it's only accessible to a limited part of the player base. So regardless of the rewards, that's kind of an issue. Like, okay, if this is available to these people, why can't it be available to these people over here? Regardless of the reward, that it should be accessible. I play the game, just because of where I live shouldn't limit what I can get inside the game or stuff like that. So it could be worse, but it still is an issue that it needs to get addressed, I guess. I mean, hey, new glider, cool. It looks cool.
I don't think it's, like you're saying, I don't think it's too much of a problem. Like, I'm not gonna,
right.
Once again, the KFC glider things, I've never been like mad about or anything like that. Any of the rewards that they've been able to get, I'm not even a KFC fan. So I'm not like crying about any of that. I think now that it's hit home for us, I'm now thinking about, okay, well, what about everybody else who can't get it? So, and even it's funny because you would think with, you know, it happening only in the US, now all the people on the America server, people in Canada, people in other areas of the America server can't get it either because once again, they're not in the US. So it's once again, it's a little annoying, I think, for a lot of people. And yeah, but I don't think at the end of the day, like you said, the 40 primos isn't a killer. And if you're really that sad about not being able to make an apple pastry in Genshin, I'm going to be extremely surprised. I think the biggest thing is the glider because, like you said, the cosmetics. And I think some people would pay any amount of money to do that, but they can't unless, I guess, you buy a plane ticket and come over here, which that's just absurd. But once again, I think it's very interesting. It's very weird, but I don't think it's anything to cry about. But yeah, I think we just wanted to talk about it and at least kind of bring it forward to you guys and hear your thoughts. Speaking of your thoughts, if you guys did enjoy the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe, as well as check out our Discord as well. If you guys did like any of the things that kind of happened, if you guys have any other ideas about what might happen instead, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Let us know if you guys have any other ideas that might be coming up in future versions as well. Once again, thank you guys for watching the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.